Hello, everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of LTC Heroes. Today, I am super excited because I have Bob Pontius as my guest. He's the Regional Director of Business and Development and Marketing at Danbury Senior Living. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I love this podcast. I love everything you guys do. So I feel like I'm trying to fill in some big shoes here.
Thank you. So to get the ball rolling, let's start with your initiation to long-term care. So I'm interested here in kind of a story of how you started in long-term care, and also what made you want to, stick around in this such a specific industry, even more for marketing. What made you want to stick around?
Wow, boy, that's a great question. I was so lucky to have started in the ambulance side of the business. So all of the private ambulance transports and wheelchair transports, my company 20 years ago, we contracted with all the nursing homes and hospitals and assisted livings and provided medical transportation. And it is I don't want to single out any redheaded stepchildren and make them feel bad, but it is the redheaded stepchild of long-term care. It just gets beat down because they need to run on time. Those ambulances need to run on time, but if they're dropping someone off at point B, but they got to get to point C, but point B held them up, point C is going to yell at them for being late. So I got initiated. I got thrown right into the fire. And I learned the structure of long-term care of the industry, that the people are its backbone. And I'm sure we'll talk about that more later. But on that note, that's what made me want to stay in the industry was the people. One of the biggest compliments I ever got was a social worker who worked on the geriatric floor in one of the local hospitals. Something was going wrong and she needed me to fix it. So she called and I got all the notes and I said, okay, what time are you going to be free? I'll call you back with the solution. And she said, that's okay, Bob. I know you're going to handle it. You don't need to call me back. I know that you're going to take care of it. And I knew at that moment that I had arrived, if you will, from a customer service point of view. But knowing that I could help hospital employees make their days go smoother and better, but also the nursing homes, the receiver, and then also that patient and their family, I could make their day better. That's when I realized, but I can get paid to do this. This sounds pretty great.
That's funny you say that because most of our guests in this show have the same kind of reaction. It's like, I love what I do, and the fact that I get paid for it, it's a bonus. So that's awesome.
I was just with some family this past weekend, and a distant relative asked me what I do for a living. And that's always a hard question for me to answer. I can give them my job title, but what it is that I do is always difficult. And I always say, in the last 20 years, I've worked 60-hour weeks. I've worked 18-hour days, and all of my senior friends have passed away probably by now throughout my career. But I haven't worked a day in 20 years. There's been no work. It's pretty great. It's a pretty great field to be in.
Yeah, for sure. So actually that you mentioned that, let's take us a little bit through your day to day. What are the things that Bob is in charge of every day, and things that you do that it might surprise us in
I don't know. They don't let me run with scissors too much. So that can be a bad thing. There are no sharp objects in my world. For me, it's keeping the Danbury brand out there in a positive light. We have this saying called the Danbury difference that we focus very strongly on internally as well as externally. And I need to make sure that anybody, I don't care if you're an accountant at your own accounting agency down the street, if you're a hospital social worker, or if you work on the highways, if you need senior living, I need you to know our name and I need you to know that we're the best. And if we don't have a location or services that can help you, I'll help you on that journey and help you find where you need to be and what you need to be doing. So honestly, yesterday I gave a CEU for hospital social workers called Using Humor in Grief: Who, What, Where, When, Why, and How, where we talk about the importance of the role that humor can play in grief. And tomorrow, today I'm doing this. So here's a weird stretch for you. Yesterday was a CEU where I'm speaking with social workers. Today is this. And tomorrow I'll be in a dunk tank at a local senior center raising money for their bus trips and things like that. So
wow.
Yeah.
That sounds really exciting.
But how do you tell people what you do for a living?
Exactly. No, there's no way to make them understand. Tell me a little bit about the learning curve. So you start working in long-term care. What are the things that you learned that you think that you wouldn't have learned if you worked in any other industry?
I distinctly remember getting someone's business card, Shelly Smith, whatever her name, I don't remember her name, comma DON. And I looked at my partner that I was riding with and I said, "What's a Don? I don't know what a Don is." He's like, "You idiot, that's a director of nursing." And the biggest thing I learned right then and there was don't assume you know anything. And I think that's kind of one of the things that's made my career is don't assume you know anything. Play dumb, ask questions, and go from there.
Yeah. And I think that's great for every industry you're in because that's how you learn things, right?
Yeah.
So going into a little bit more specific, going into marketing, what are some of the challenges you face in terms of marketing in this industry?
Number one is people who assume they know everything. People who assume they know nothing, they're easier to get along with. But honestly, market saturation is one thing. There's a new nursing home and a new assisted living being built, every other day. And that's fine. The silver tsunami is coming. We know that. And it's already begun with 10,000 people turning 65 every day. But honestly, the biggest challenge, and I think all of our listeners will agree, is the uneducated consumer. Either they don't know anything at all, or they've spent the last 5 nights on Google and WebMD and every other aggregate site on the planet getting any kind of information. So then they think they know everything, and they're even more uneducated than before. So honestly, that is the biggest challenge, I think. And I don't think we're doing a good enough job educating them in a way that they can understand. We're sending out messages from our corporate marketing teams and from our contracted advertising agencies that use words that we understand, give messages that we know, or it's the same doggone stock photos of grandma and a caregiver, and grandma's in her wheelchair. And we expect these to connect and resonate when we should be helping them understand, hey, do you know the difference between Medicare and Medicaid? Do you know what long-term care insurance is? Do you know the difference between an assisted living and a nursing home? Did you know that assisted livings don't take Medicare or your insurance? Insurance doesn't cover, Blue Cross Blue Shield doesn't cover an assisted living. I think that's our biggest challenge. We need to get better at that.
And what are you doing as someone in charge of marketing for Danbury? What are you doing to illustrate that specifically?
A lot of community engagement, as much community engagement as we can possibly do. We're very transparent. We're very open. For example, Danbury is our private pay assisted livings. Obviously, we work with the VA and long-term care insurance, but 90%, we're, let's say, mostly private pay. So if someone calls and asks about the Medicare or Medicaid products that help pay for assisted living, we say, sorry, that's just not us. But what's going on? We're still going to have a discovery conversation with them and find out how we can help, so that they're not going to spend the next 3 days on the phone figuring out what the heck to do. We're generally going to be able to hand them right off to someone who can help them immediately.
Yeah, for sure. In terms of, now that we're talking about challenges in the industry in general, I know, well, staffing is a big one, but we also have a big challenge that is census and occupancy, right? So how do you go about improving the census numbers and improving brand awareness at Danbury? What are some tactical things that you put in place?
It goes back to the thing I was talking about, the Danbury difference. Most of our Danbury Senior Living, the buildings, the physical buildings, are less than 5, 6, or 7 years old, less than 6 years old, let's say. So fairly new. And when people tell me, boy, they sure are beautiful, it's like, well, they're brand new. They better be beautiful, right? The difference is the team that works there. And I try to encourage new salespeople, new sales and marketing teammates that, listen, if your team, your servers in the dining room, your maintenance guys who have to unplug 3 toilets, fix 2 cable boxes, the dumpster's broken again, and you name it, you name it, what they have to do. I say, if those teammates aren't buying what you're selling, I promise you, your prospects aren't going to buy what you're selling. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So sure. I encourage everybody to roll up their sleeves, dive in head first, and it starts this, I don't want to use the word magical, that's just too cheesy, but it starts this vibe, this atmosphere, this environment, this culture, if you will, in a building. And when an assisted living or a nursing center has that, when people come and tour, they feel it and they see it, and they understand it and they connect with it. When they talk about it in the community, let's say the mayor comes in for a ribbon cutting or to wish somebody 100th happy birthday. When they see that dynamic, then they talk about it to their friends and family. Boy, let me tell you, I was over at that Danbury senior home today, whatever that is. Man, that place was alive. The people were dancing and having fun, and there was a guitar player there, and they were having sloppy joes for lunch, and it just all adds up. So driving census and brand awareness starts from within and works its way out. It does not start with a new billboard or a new Facebook ad, where we send it out there and we say, oh, right, here we go. The referrals are going to roll in now.
Yeah, for sure. And this is a perfect transition.
We ignore what's happening internally.
Yeah. It's actually a perfect transition into our next topic, because when we were talking the first time we met and we were talking about kind of your leadership style and the way you approach business in the day-to-day, you told us that you have an attitude of just saying yes. And you actually told us that it was Tina Fey's, I believe, right? The theory, Tina Fey's, of like the attitude of saying yes.
Yeah.
So I would love for you so 3 things. 1, to explain to us and our viewers today what the theory of yes in business means. 2, actually just 2. And 2, give me kind of a story or a specific moment that you used that theory and that, you took a very big leap of faith or very big risk, and that it paid off afterwards.
Absolutely. Well, so for all of our listeners and viewers, just Google Tina Fey, just say yes. So, and this impacted me. This has got to be, if not 5, probably 10 years old. The Tina Fey theory of yes. So she gave this lecture years ago. It might have even been a TED Talk of just saying yes. So when you're doing a scene of improv, and you and I say, hey, you want to go to the ball game? And you say, no, I'm not really in the mood for the ball game. Our improv scene is dead. It's just dead. And I have this I have this thought that there's two kinds of salespeople. So as I'm talking about this theory, I want you to think about two kinds of sales and admissions people in long-term care. There's one kind of person who, when they're handed a referral or when they get an email or a phone call, the first thought they have is, what's wrong with this referral? And I'm not saying it's bad or it's wrong, but they spend their time vetting it and saying, oh, I see they're on oxygen. Oh, I see they use a walker. Oh, I see they might run out of money in 5 years. Oh, I see the kids don't live in it. Just a laundry list of the no's, if you will. And then there's another kind of sales and marketing professional that is handed a lead and handed a phone number, and bang, there, right on the phone. Hi, this is Bob with Danbury. How can I help you? They have no idea what they're getting themselves into, but they jump on it. And they see that printout and they say, oh, no problem. And they call, what can we do for you? And the theory of yes is just at every possible chance you get, just say yes and go with it. So back to my original example. Hey, do you want to go to the ball game? No, I don't really like baseball. Can we go to soccer? No, it doesn't work. It's done. But if I say, hey, let's go to a ball game, and you say yes, yes, who's playing? Oh, great. The Cleveland Guardians are playing the New York Yankees. Do you like to eat hot dogs and drink beer at the game? No, I'm vegetarian. I don't really like hot. We're done again, right?
Yeah.
Say, yes, maybe not hot dogs, but I'll drink beer with you at the game. And then we can. So the theory of yes and, because believe me, when families call, when seniors themselves call, or another healthcare professional calls with a referral, and the first thing we do is give them an attitude of yes. Oh, even if it ends up being a no and we can't end up serving them, the experience they had, they take it and share it with others. They see it in my teammates as they walk around the building. It just builds into this attitude and this atmosphere of, what can we do for you? I'm here for you. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
No, not to keep rattling on, but perfect example. You wanted an example with it?
Yeah, I did. No, that's a perfect example. Do you remember? I actually want to go into more specific and try to find an example where it happened, maybe like to you, where you were on site and you're like, oh, this is going to be hard, but yes, let's say yes and let's do it. Did something like that ever happen?
Oh, all the time. Once you embed this mindset in your daily work life and even your daily life, it just, then you look back months later and you're like, oh my goodness, that's how I got that referral. That's how that person moved in. So the day before the state of Ohio locked down for COVID, the day before, I had gotten a phone call from a local police department. Well, when I say local, probably about 45 minutes away from a police department. And they said, hi, there's a gentleman in this town who we have picked up twice for wandering. This time, so it would have been February or March when COVID really started hitting. Remember, I want to say March. Mm-hmm. And this time he was out in his underwear in the cold. And we talked. He doesn't have any family. He has two nieces, one niece in the Washington, D.C. and one niece in Texas. And we told them that if they don't place him, we will. And believe me, you don't want the police placing anybody, right? God love them. They've got a wonderful job to do, but they're going to do what they have to do. And he may spend a couple of days behind bars until they get it situated. And with Alzheimer's, who wants that? That's terrible. So we got these nieces' phone numbers. And from the beginning, we could have said, oh, wow, there's this pandemic, there's this weird thing going around COVID. We'll call you back. Let's see what's going to happen and we'll call you back. We could have said, you're 45 minutes away. There's plenty of other facilities that can help you. We don't have time for that today. You name the excuse. Does he have money? Sounds like an Alzheimer's guy wandering the streets in his underpants. That's no. We're full. We don't have room for him because he sounds like a handful from the beginning, right? So the no's are, and there's countless no's that we could have said.
Yep.
We called the nieces. We got a hold of the one in Texas, and we said, "How do you even know about us?" We knew a family that stayed there in your Alzheimer's unit, friends of our families. They had since passed, but what a great experience they had with you. We need our uncle to come stay with you. Yes, out of the gate. By the next morning, we had 2 cars. He had been living with his sister. He had been living with his sister. We had 2 cars driving 45 minutes. 1 car with our nurse and an aide to bring him back. Our activity director to bring him back, and 1 car with me and another to stay and do the paperwork with the sister. As soon as we got there, we could have even said, "This house, we can't do this. This house is a mess. He's a mess. He needs to be admitted, yada, yada, yada. He needs to go to the hospital." No, we said, "Hey, we're going to go for a ride. We're going to go to a new assisted living down the road. Your nieces wanted you to come with us." Thankfully, he said, "Sure." Got ready and walked out the door with us. On the way home, so we were there for about 2 or 3 hours getting the sister to cooperate and sign everything. We literally had to stop at Walmart and get slippers, pajamas, clothes for tomorrow. He had nothing. He just got in the car and came with us. We're standing in line at Walmart, and the COVID line was starting. And everyone's buying everything they could for COVID. Remember how we all bought Clorox? Everybody in line has all of that. The disinfectant wipes. And we're standing there with sweatpants, slippers, boxer shorts, toothbrush, electric razor, everything for this gentleman. So it took, and it was one of my coworkers' second day. It was her second day.
That's a beautiful story. We love these stories on this show because it really show us how amazing the job that you guys are doing are important and how it matters. Yeah. So we love that. That's beautiful.
If we had said any amount of no's from the beginning, our job would have been much easier. We would have been much easier. But we were able to impact that family and that one man. And he still lives with us today. He's been thriving in our Alzheimer's neighborhood for 2 or 3 years now. Yeah. Anyway.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. So I'm going to take one moment to thank our sponsor. This episode of LTC Heroes is brought to you by Experience Care, the most comfortable and intuitive EHR on the market. So if you have any questions or you want more information, please visit experience.care/guarantee to take a test drive and see why Capterra named Experience Care the best valued assisted living software of 2021. So moving on, Bob, let's talk a little bit about social media. So this is kind of a hard topic, and even for me, because when I am the one who manages the social media accounts for LTC Heroes, and when I'm thinking about creativity and great things and great ideas to bring, engagement and not just random posts that matter and that people are going to enjoy, right?
Right.
It's such a hard job. So do you have any ideas on how we can improve engagement on social media within this industry? What are some things that we can maybe change or add to our posts that would, give a more realistic approach of what long-term care is, but also, get more engagement, get more people talking and see this beautiful industry that long-term care is?
Right, exactly. We have to stop being afraid of it. You remember, even as soon as 5 years ago, we would make our brochures. I remember distinctly 5-10 years ago, we would want our brochures to have people 5 to 10 years younger than our target demographic, because, a 90-year-old doesn't want to see a 90-year-old with a walker doesn't want to see another 90-year-old with a walker, right? We got to, and I really think over the past 4 or 5 years, we've stopped doing that. We need to say it like it is. Some of my most effective social media posts since the pandemic began have just been the truth. showing what we're doing. We did a cheesy in one of our Danburys. We did a reverse McDonald's drive-through, right? Where we ordered like 200 cheeseburgers, 200 small fries, 200 milkshakes, whatever. And we took a cart and we fitted it with to make it look like a drive-through window. And we would go knock on their door and say, "Hi, thanks for coming to McDonald's. What would you like?" That post on our social media went crazy. And the regional team out of Chicago of McDonald's picked it up because it was just a real post saying, "Hey, yeah, this sucks right now, but look what we're doing." And it was just the truth of the matter. It was what we really do every day. And I think that's what we need to do, because people connect with people. People don't connect with marketing campaigns. They connect with each other, and they want to see what we're really doing.
Yeah, that's very smart. And also it works for everyone, right? We all want to feel like what we're seeing represents us. So if you're seeing something completely different to your reality, you're not going to connect in any way. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm interested now in some helpful resources that you use, because in this industry, we have so many resources from everywhere. So in terms of two things: one, trends and news about long-term care. How do you stay updated on that? And the second thing about, business development and marketing, how do you stay on top of things in that specific area too? Do you go to conventions? Do you read specific papers? How do you go about it?
I did the normal stuff, McKnight's, obviously long-term care heroes, obviously that's in the top 2 or 3, duh. But I do a lot of off-topic reading, if you will. Like I'll a copy of Architectural Digest. I'll read a magazine, related to sports management. Who's my favorite baseball manager? Who's my favorite football coach? How are the Cleveland Guardians handling their rebrand and keeping their constituents engaged? And then I'll take that and think of how can I apply that to my job. And I find that I get better results, better traction that way, because they're telling me something I don't know, I haven't heard before, And it's honestly a specific example would be something like Architectural Digest, because it just shows you to think in a different way. And how can I apply that? Specifically to senior living, I'll see an article in one of those magazines about senior retrofitting. As what kind of houses or what kind of buildings are seniors looking for, and then just apply that filter down onto my daily job.
Yeah, that's actually smart, very smart. So to wrap up today's interview, let me ask you about the advice for the next generation. And I know you talked a little bit about this on our pre-chat. You said that it was so important for the next generation to, ask questions to the older people that are there, that have been there for so long and that have learned throughout the years. So what would be the advice for the next generation of long-term care executives?
So long-term care is a tribe in and of itself, right? There is nothing like this industry anywhere. You can't find, not even hospitals, right? Like healthcare is this big ball, but long-term care is the strangest and most unique niche of them all. So it's this tribe. We're a very specific tribe. And yes, things change, and yes, there are new things and innovations, but honestly, the people coming up that are just graduating from college, that are just getting their LNHAs, who are just finishing a human resources program and joining long-term care, listen to the knowledge of the tribe. I call it tribal knowledge, tribal wisdom, and apply it to what you do every day. Because honestly, an 80-year-old with AFib or a 90-year-old with a walker, well, yes, technology is changing, and maybe the one today has an iPad in her apartment and 20 years ago they didn't. But the needs they have, the emotional needs they have, are exactly the same. they're still filled with grief and loss and loneliness and physical pain and emotional pain. And my kids don't come see me enough. And listen to the advice of those who have been doing it for 10, 20, 30 years and watch how they do it. I think that's the most important thing. I can still name names of men and women I knew 20 years ago when I started. And I just watched them with families and with residents and with patients and with employees, with teammates. And I thought, boy, that's how you do it. So, watch those who have been doing it for years. Again, we talked about this earlier. Don't think you have all the answers. Come to work and don't think you have any of the answers. And fill yourself with what folks have been doing and then make it work for you.
That's beautiful. I love that as the ending note of this episode. Thank you so much, Bob, for joining us today. It was a pleasure to have you on the show.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.